We're now in the main menu system, and I'm going to move over to the bank selection. And so the first menu item in the bank, well, first of all, the bank will have a number next to it, 0 or 1. The Liquidtrax 100 and the Liquidtrax 50 both have 2 banks of memory. And right now I'm selected for bank 1. If I want to switch over to 0, I would click the switch option and then using the jog dial select 0 or 1. So I'm going to stay on 1 for now. So that's what switching does. You can see that I have an arrow, so that means I'm going to move over. And now I have rescan. So if I add music files, and you don't want to really do this often, I think you want to set up your banks on your memory card and just get it scanned in so you can do an auto load, which I'll show you in a second. But essentially, if you add files to your memory card or change things around, then you want to do a rescan. And what this is going to do, actually I'm going to do it here because this is a very long rescan, because I have hundreds of files in there. So it's going to go ready to scan. In fact, I have a corrupted file in here, so I'll show you that as well. So now it's going to scan. It found all the files. There were 110 of them, and now it can tell you that it's processing them. And what it's actually doing is pulling up all the audio files. There could be WAV files, MP3 files, WMA, Windows format files. And it's grabbing all the ID and title and artist and all the normal information that you would expect inside of a file. And by the way, if you don't have ID3 type of tag information, then the name of the file is going to be the name of the file on the media. And in the case of Liquidtrax, it breaks everything down to the old DOS 8.3 format. So you can see here the name of the file is 8 characters dot and then MP3 or WMA or WAV for WAV files and so on. .MID for MIDI files and SYX for SysX files. But you can see that the light's blinking, so you know it's doing something, but it's stuck on this file, 02 PRID arrow 1.mp3. Now, the reason it's stuck there is it can't find the data. There are certain MP3 files that are corrupt or weren't encoded properly or have bad or missing ID3 information. Missing meaning a header was started, but it wasn't properly recorded. So here's a file I put on there on purpose which has bad data. Now eventually it's going to get through this and it's going to find that it's a U2 MP3 called Pride, but it's going to chug along and take a little bit to get past that. That's not normal. If you have a file like that, you actually want to highlight it and either re-encode it or find a replacement for it. And so eventually this will, it's going through the entire MP3. At this point it's going in real time, so it might take up to a minute. But that won't happen to too many error files. If you notice it happening at all, now I did this one on purpose, but if you do notice it at all, then check that file out anyway. There's probably something not coded to standard. So we're at 52. I'm going to freeze this and wait till it gets down to 0. It's going to take another 60 seconds, so let me fast forward. Okay, it didn't even take 60 seconds. So now it grabbed all the files and now it's going to process them and create what I call scan files. And this is a good place to kind of mention a few things. First of all, banks are unique to a memory card itself. So you can have 2 banks on each memory card. Technically, you can have as many memory cards as you want, each with their own set of banks. So what you would need to do if you change memory cards is just reload the bank, which you would do in this bank menu that we're in now, and I'll show you that next. Most folks are just going to leave their memory card plugged in at all times and just use their 2 banks, but you most certainly can have different set lists or different memory cards for different purposes, and each of them can be reloaded into the Liquidtrax very quickly. So this rescanning actually just created a file on the USB stick itself in my case, because that's what I plugged in, and it prepared that bank 1 directory for use with the Liquidtrax. So I don't need to rescan again, it's created that file. Now if I fast forward, I'll talk about save and load in a second. If I fast forward to auto load, what that's going to actually do is just take that scan that I just did, and it's going to automatically populate the actual banks of, I'm sorry, the presets that are stored for this bank 1. Now you have to be careful because this will wipe out anything that you haven't already saved onto your USB stick. So if I want to save the old data onto this one, I can go ahead and hit save now. Proceed, yes, and now it's storing my preset file onto this USB stick. So you always want to think of a USB, in my case the USB media, as a holder of 2 banks, bank 0 and 1, and then it also holds the preset files that you create connected to bank 0 and 1. And you kind of want to keep those together on the same memory card. So when you plug in the next memory card, you can actually install it, hit load, and then what it's going to do is take the preset memory off that particular memory card and load that into the Liquid Tracks. And that's what will stay in the Liquid Tracks until you load another one. So now I'm going to hit auto load, and that's going to actually wipe out everything I've done to date. But you'll see how fast it goes. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And now for all of the audio files, now if you have more than 127 audio files in your bank, because you can have hundreds of them, it's just going to grab the first 127, and it does it in alphabetical order. So when you scan in a file, it automatically sorts everything alphabetically. Just makes it easier to search for something. But the first 127 in an auto load will automatically get programmed with all of the default settings. And that's what we just did. And then finally we can erase an entire bank out of memory. Use that carefully. And then there are times when you want to hold information and this will make more sense later on in some of the tutorials, but if you need the serial number of your memory card, then go ahead and click that button, and Liquid Tracks will tell you what serial number it assigned to this memory card. So next time I plug in this card, it's going to identify this card by that number, and so it can keep track of many cards as you're plugging them in. So it'll know when you're insert the wrong memory card that doesn't match the bank that's stored currently in the Liquid Tracks. And that might be okay. You might have multiple memory cards with the exact same programming on them, and you'll see why when we do the master and slave scenario. So that's the bank menu. So we have again, you can switch banks, rescan a bank, you can save a bank to the media card, you can load a bank from the media card, you can auto load all the presets very quickly based on a bank into the memory of the Liquid Tracks. And then finally you can erase the entire bank or grab the serial number for the current bank. So that's the bank menu.